What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy right here, MMA Reloaded. Welcome to episode 7 of MMA Reloaded Real Talk, where we talk real, we never lie, cheat, and steal. And today, folks, it gives me great pleasure to introduce a South African phenom who's going to join us. He's undefeated. His name is none other than Bokang Masunyane. And let's get Bokang with us right now. Shit. All right. Sorry about the late start, folks. We're supposed to start at... I've just got the bit of the time mixed up. You know what I mean? But it's all right. We're live and direct. I hope everyone's being safe, staying home, being careful. The lockdown, quarantine, and this disease and this virus is as dangerous as ever. So just give us 1 sec. Fuck off. All right. So, folks, as we go live, I just want to say tonight is another fight night. And, folks, it gives me, man, I mean, coming off the heels of UFC 249, there's such huge bars that have been raised for MMA fans. And, folks, Bokang would be coming on right now, man. Let's just... I want to thank everyone for joining us here at MMA Reloaded Real Talk. The show... What is going on, man? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry about a bit of the rush start, you know what I'm saying? It's a bit of a pain in the ass. But, but folks, you know what? Tonight we head back to the great state of Florida, Jacksonville, for the second of 3 UFC events this week. I mean, folks, we're just still coming off the heels. The internet, social media is nuts after UFC 249. Today, folks, we sit down and talk with an undefeated South African phenom, signed to one championship. He's a ball of bloody energy. If you watch Instagram, he is. It's like watching The Matrix, real life and up close. Follow him on Little Giant _BK. Bokang Masunyane. It gives me great pleasure to introduce him. My first MMA Reloaded first South African fighter on the show. Of course, I did a post being grateful and thanking every fighter that has appeared on the show for the past month now. It gives me great pleasure, folks, to introduce another great fighter, young and hungry, as I'm sure every fighter is. Bokang Masunyane, folks, he is, oh my God, it's like watching a South African John Dodson. It's like being inside a damn movie. He's constantly moving inside that cage. And folks, watch him compete at one championship amongst Asia's finest. And I can't wait to interview Bokang Masunyane. Folks, tonight What a card. What a card we are looking at here tonight. Anthony Lionheart Smith versus Glover Teixeira. And you know what? I cannot wait. I can't wait. Folks, it's such a, I mean, if you look at the card looks beautiful. It looks beautiful, folks. I'm ready. I think Lionheart knows that coming back strong is so important for him to come back strong, to come back into that title contention, to come back into the conversation for the light heavyweight championship. When you talk Glover Teixeira, 40 years old, he's timeless. But for how long will he be timeless for? Folks, Bokang Masunyane is about ready. We're ready. Let's go. Hey, Bokang. Hey, Bokang.
What's up? How are you?
Hey, man. How are you, brother?
I'm all good, thanks to you, man.
I'm very well, man. I'm very well. First of all, bro, I was just giving the fans a bit of an introduction to who you are and what they can expect from you watching you at One Championship. First of all, bro, how's it going for you in lockdown and in quarantine, bro?
Oh yes, it's quite tough times. But I still get to train. I still get to put in my hours, train by myself, keep the training going. So it's obviously a difficult time for the whole world, but I'm trying to do the best I can with the time I have.
Okay, no, that's great, man. At least you're still getting to train and still getting to keep in shape is so important for everyone right now, bro. And, especially as a fighter, you still got to keep your physique up and try to keep up the routine. So tell me, bro. Do you have a set routine when you train now, or is it just every day as it comes?
So the truth is, I take everything as it comes, and I do the best I can. I put in as much work as I can. I put in time, obviously focusing on my mindset and making sure that I keep on staying in the game, you know. So the most important thing now with the lockdown is to be mentally there, you know, to make sure your mental state is in a good state.
You know what, Bogdan? Tell me this, bro. First of all, welcome to MMA Reloaded Real Talk. It's a pleasure to have you, man. Our first South African guest. You know what, man? It's I've been watching you for a while now, man, and of course, anyone who follows Instagram will see how amazing your attributes and your ability is. First of all, bro, you're undefeated right now in your career at 7-0. How do you feel jumping from EFC in South Africa to competing amongst Asia's finest in One Championship, bro?
Yeah, the truth is, it's a dream come true, you know. From fighting locally and now fighting internationally, it's been one of those journeys I've been looking to go through. And at this moment, I just want to make my way up and be able to win the One Championship title, you know. So right now, I'm going to take a fight as it comes, but it's been a great opportunity for me that I've got. I'm definitely one of the first South Africans to make it into One Championship. If I'm not mistaken, I'm the first African. So it's something big for me and my country.
You know, man, and when I see you and I see your fights, you're such a passionate guy. You're so passionate in representing your country, and of course, South Africa and African fighters in general are putting MMA on a new map, in terms of making a huge splash on the big stages. So my second question is basically in regards to that. As a South African fighter, and of course making a splash and joining this huge gifted African contingent as we see it today. Talk to us how you got started in the game, BK, and about your heritage.
Yes. So I've been wrestling since I was 8 years old. So wrestling has been my background throughout the time. And wrestling in South Africa, it's very difficult to make a career out of. So it's very hard to make a living out of it. And I found MMA. I really found love for it. I studied it. I learned a lot about it. And I decided to get myself joined into mixed martial arts. I have a very good coach, Coach Richie Kwan, in South Africa, one of the best MMA gyms in Africa, and soon to be one of the best in the world. We've got the likes of Chris Cyborg, who fights in Bellator. We've got our next fighter that came through is Don Match, who fights in the UFC, and with me now joining the One Championship. So it's honestly, it's been a pleasure to be around parts like that. But what I also did is I made sure that I get myself involved into MMA, and I made sure I put myself into the best position possible. And I fought my way up into the EFC, and got myself involved with management and getting myself involved with one MTK. He started fighting in Japan, and from then I fought in Pancrase. And from then they saw the talent, or they saw potential out of me, and that's when they got me into One Championship.
I mean, when you talk about those two, when you talk about fighting in Asia and fighting in Japan, they redefine exactly and embody what martial arts is as a sport and as a tradition. How did you feel when you came into One FC, knowing that that One FC is filled with some of the best pure martial artists on earth? Did you feel pressure coming in to One FC, or did you feel like you fit there like a glove?
Honestly, I felt like I fit there like a glove. The reason why is because I've always wanted to be part of One Championship. It's anytime I had to choose, I'd always choose One Championship out of the other organizations around the world. So I knew that it's one of the best fighters, and the style, the way they present fighters, and the way they represent themselves is where I honestly wanted to be, and I'm super grateful to be where I am right now with One Championship. I didn't feel any pressure leading up to it because I wanted it, and the fact that I'm in it now, I get to exploit myself and make the best out of it.
Oh man, that sounds great, bro. It sounds like you want to move forward and capture the One FC Flyweight Championship. Tell me, BK, when you going back to what we said about training and especially in the lockdown, what do you? Of course, you've got a huge physique for flyweight, and how do you in lockdown and quarantine? I know you take it day by day, but what are you focusing on more when you train?
I've been mostly focusing on technique, making sure my technique is on point, because it's easy to get fit. You know, you can just start running, you can do whatever to get fit, but the technique is the most important thing. If you don't have technique, then you're in trouble. You know, so I've been working on my technique and watching a lot of fight videos. I've been studying a lot of jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, boxing, wrestling, so forth. Everything that involves combat sports, I've been trying to study, watch the videos as much as I can. So that's been helping me a lot.
I admire that. I admire that, bro. I admire the fact that you take inspiration from watching fights. Because some people, bro, sort of put themselves into their own little world, and it looks like you actually do your homework, bro. And I respect that out of a fighter because there's always room to grow. Yeah, at 5'1", yeah, bro. If you don't mind, if you don't mind me asking it, at 5'1", do you get a lot of comments about your height as a fighter?
Yes, I do. So, well, I remember since from the wrestling days, you know, I've always been the shortest fighter, and you know, I just thought if I can do the best to be, or if I can do anything to be the best person I can be, that's what I'm gonna do. No matter what size, no matter what height, just do me and be the best me possible. And that helped me throughout. And it showed. And I started loving being short because I'm using now my height as advantage to my fight, which works out perfect for me. So I'm happy with that.
I mean, I mean, if when people see you fight and they attend your fights live, I'm sure they won't throw any hate out there to you once they see you in the cage and doing what you do. Um, so, but I mean, at 5'1" in a flyweight division, it's not uncommon. So, do you see it more as an advantage, or are there disadvantages being of a certain height in the flyweight division?
When I started, when I had my first fight, or as the fight started, on my last fight in one championship, it kind of felt a bit different because I'm so used to fighting guys that were bigger than me. As soon as I fought someone my size, I first had to get used to the distance and how they work. Luckily, what I did was adapt in the fight and try to see, okay, he's good at this. What is it that I'm good at? And what can I do good at that time? So I stuck to my wrestling, which was I was good at, and it was very difficult to like throw out my other moves and stuff because I'm so used to throwing them on taller people that and shorter people or guys my size, more or less. It became a bit different, but the fact that I was able to adapt kind of helped me too.
I mean, as a wrestler, BK, it's you've come in with such a solid base, but how I can see in your fights that you improve on your striking day by day, fight by fight. How did it? How did it? Was it a long process? And was it such hard work to mix it up and incorporate striking with your wrestling to compete in MMA?
The truth is, if you don't know any style, it's difficult to get into it. So what I did is I kept on doing my wrestling classes, kept on doing everything else. But the most important thing for me was to learn as much as I can on the disciplines that I was not good at. So what I did is I focused more on my boxing. I realized got short legs, I can't kick as much, but what kind of kicks that will come to advantage of me? So I started working on explosive kicks, explosive movements, which kind of helped a lot. Knowing that I also have that wrestling background, so it was quite helpful.
I mean, for me, but I think with a man of your size and your height and your weight, it's you've got one of the best bases in mixed martial arts because you're so quick, and it's rare that people actually see the takedown coming, and you have a lot more room to transition and control. I think what I've seen from you in one championship is pure skill and intelligence. How important is mental state, bro, and having a good state of mind mentally coming into a fight?
Yes. I'll say it's one of the most important things. Knowing you can be fit, but if your mind is not in the fight, then it'll never come your way, you know. So you have to put yourself into a mental state. You have to put yourself into a state where you know you're fighting, you know you're in it, you know you're gonna have to enjoy this fun that you have. So what I do is I listen mostly to music. I put myself in the mindset where I know all I'm gonna do this week is focus on the fight that's coming. And all I do, nothing else, but my mind stays focused. And yes, I get the help of other people around me, which I'm grateful for. Because if it wasn't of those people, I would not been able to focus on what I want.
Man, I respect that, bro. I respect that so much, man. Because you know, undefeated fighters and young fighters nowadays, they don't really take as much consideration to ask more experienced people for help, or even their coaches for that matter. So I respect that, bro. I respect the fact that you want to take that advice and you just relax. And your it looks like your mental state is good coming into fight. So I've seen you smiling at some of the fights, you know, and um, when I see it, bro, I mean, in this era of MMA, we talk about respect and we talk about confidence and mental state. But a lot of fighters, especially in the UFC, rely on shit talking and talking trash. Yeah, but do you think it's necessary to talk trash to get big fights, or do you think that people should earn it genuinely?
Uh, yeah, that's a very interesting question to ask. But I believe is if you're meant to be there, you will be there. And the best thing is be the person you are. Express the person you are and enjoy the journey as it comes. Like, yes, in my own opinion, I prefer not trash talking. I prefer showing my respect and letting it be the way it is, and then just get there and go fight because it's gonna happen anyway, no matter what the other guy's saying, no matter how the other guy tries, whatever they try to tell you. But what's important for you is knowing that you are gonna fight at the end of the day, and you're gonna have to do what you wanna do into the fight, going into the fight.
Oh, for sure.
And some guys prefer doing this trash talking if it works for them, but for me, it doesn't work. For me, it's going there and enjoying this opportunity, enjoying this journey of being a fighter and going out there and fight against the guys around the world. And being the journey of becoming the champion, because that's the journey I'm leading up to. I want to be the best fighter in the world. So trash talking and whatever that comes with it from other people, that's them. But the most important thing for me is to focus on the journey instead of trying to see what I or instead of trying to see what I can let other people feel before they fight. I just want to feel me for the fight and do what I do and just do me.
I mean, I think that's the right attitude to have. I think if you're a lot more genuine and you're a lot more humble, the fans and fighters will respect you more. I think we look at legends like George St. Pierre and Anderson Silva, and in ONE FC we look at the Burmese Python On Lang Sung, and that is what you call respect. Yeah, bro. And I think if you want, if you're an up and coming fighter, those are the best role models I can think of to get that respect from and look up to. Um, when we look at respect and we look at sportsmanship, yeah, BK. Of course, it's not a team sport, but how important is sportsmanship and respect if you're an MMA fighter?
Oh yes, it's for me. It's one of the most important things because fighting is violence at the end of the day. So what we're putting ourselves through is getting our bodies broken, we're getting our bodies bruised, we're getting injured at the end of the day inside there. And at the end of the day, it's enjoying the journey that you're going through. And I feel what I feel if sorry, I can't explain this, but I feel if you're a fighter,
Yeah.
you gotta do what you love at the end
Yeah.
of the day. No matter what happens, you gotta show your respect because the same person also went through something that's difficult for them leading up to the fight. So at the end of the day, there is tough times. We all have tough times in life, and the most important thing is to show the best side of you, and that's how I see sportsmanship as.
Yeah. I mean, that's right now, and considering the social media impact of fighters calling out fighters and people posting highlight reels and I think on Instagram, yeah, bro, and on One Championships Instagram, for example, you're one of the most reputable guys on that page, and I think people are starting to know a lot more about who you are from the amazing feats that you possess, the flips and the wall dives. I am how I mean I don't know how to put this, man. I mean you're a ball of energy, bro. How does it? How do you think? How does, in your opinion, how do you think social media impacts the reputation of a promotion or a fighter?
Oh, yeah. Like now with social media being everywhere, people are always on social media. So it's one of the most important things. And you have to put yourself out there, you know. You have to let the people know you. So it's not about being the best fighter or being the most disciplined guy or, you know, it's about letting the people see who you are at the end of the day and letting the people you show off what you have, but you show it off in a good way.
Definitely, definitely. I think when we look at social media, we look at things like Facebook, and there are so many MMA discussion groups where that people get to know fighters that they didn't know before, or they get to give their little opinions on fights and fighters. I think what some of it is unfair and some of it is unpopular, but I think when we see something like One Championship, it's always promoted in a positive light. How does that impact a promotion like One FC and a fighter like yourself being promoted in a positive light and not and getting very few criticism?
Oh yes, it's a very good thing knowing that there's kids that are watching us, and it's not just adults now. Everyone is watching. It's a violent sport at the end of the day. So everyone is watching the technique or the beauty of the sport, and it's I'll say it's very important. It's just as important as everything around the world, you know. So I feel it's a very important aspect.
Uh, you know what, BK, I wanna move on to a segment I like to call the throwback. It's taking you back to your One Championship debut against Riato Sawada. And I was watching this fight back, man, and I have to say, coming into your debut and being undefeated, did you feel do you feel pressure, or did you feel pressure coming into that One FC debut, 6-0? How did you feel actually coming into that fight?
Ah yes, I felt some pressure. It was mind blowing for me. It was, hey, I'm from Africa. I'm fighting in Asia. It felt like I was living in a dream for a second. But I felt that I felt that pressure of wow, I'm unbeaten. No one has beaten me. Will it go the other way around? But that's how I feel. That's how every fighter feels. And working out, I told myself, look, whatever happens, happens. Right now, I've done my training. I've done everything that I needed to do to prepare for this fight. All I'm gonna do is just go out there, express myself, and enjoy the fight as much as I can.
I mean, you looked in incredible shape coming into that fight, and I think people who watched that fight would would see that there was a considerable reach difference because he was a bit more lankier than you were. And I think in the first round, in the beginning and at the middle, he was sort of countering you as you would come forward. But towards the end, you used your wrestling to neutralize him. In the later rounds, how did you feel going into the later rounds? Because you used your wrestling, you were intelligent coming forward, and you sort of started to dictate it as the fight went on. How did you feel in that fight?
Yes, at first I felt quite rusty, trying to get the distance in, trying to move around and trying to see what he's good at and what he's not good at. And while that was happening, I had to decide what I'm good at this time and what will work as an advantage to me. His striking was out of this world, man. His striking was very good, and all I needed to do was to move my head more. And I knew that as soon as I get close enough to make contact, it's gonna be my game. And from then, I've heard he was also a wrestler, but I had believed that my wrestling was much higher than people think of.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's when I started using my wrestling, and that's when whatever was happening there, I had to improvise with my wrestling on what to do and what technique to go and what to follow through.
I mean, when I looked at that fight, and I think when fans look at that fight, your wrestling was so prominent in you getting your decision. When it came to two and three, round two and three, he didn't know when to come forward. He developed a respect for your wrestling, but you still managed to get the takedown on him and control him. When when we talk wrestling, bro, how important do you think it is for a fighter nowadays to be well rounded and to have a strong wrestling and jiu-jitsu base?
Oh yes, it's very important. It's, it's almost like you cannot have one style nowadays in martial arts to fight through. You need to have all the styles. You need to work on every single aspect in your life, and it's really important because I started working on my jiu-jitsu. I started working on my striking, and it helped me out a lot. I fought guys who were very good at jiu-jitsu, but the fact that I understood what they were doing, and with the base, with the wrestling base, I was able to defend stuff like that. And I knew guys that were good at jiu-jitsu. Well, I've worked on my stand-up, and I felt whenever I felt that my stand-up was the better part of it, then I would just use my stand-up. So I knew when to use what because of learning all the different styles in mixed martial arts.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think when we look at the best of the best today, we look at well-roundedness and we look at the attitude and the skill set. I mean, it takes me to exactly what we were saying, what we were talking about. Your ONE FC debut. I congratulations on the win at the end of it. You were 7-0 now. As an unblemished fighter, as an undefeated fighter, do you feel that as you grow, that especially in ONE FC, the flyweight division is so tight and there's so much competition. Do you feel that it gives you a higher chance to get that title shot against Christian Lee?
Ah, yes. Just to correct you there, I'm in strawweight at the moment, but I am willing to fight both flyweights and strawweight and fight for the title, either way. And the fact that they've seen I'm unbeaten and I've beaten one of the best guys and one of the best upcoming guys. I feel that I'm in the sport to either fight the next contender, fight for the title, or even fight for the title anytime soon. I believe that I'm a champion in my UFC, and I believe it's something I've always believed in. It's something I've always dreamed about. It's been my vision since I started MMA. And since as a young kid, I've always wanted to perform in front of the crowd and put on my best performance. So I believe I am the champion material. I am champion, and I'm just waiting for my time to come, and I'll take it. I'll take it as it comes.
I think that is such a humble way of looking at it, BK. I think what as I get to talk to you, I get to know that you're such a passionate guy, and you want to be the best, bro. And you're right. I mean, as a fighter, you just have to take it as it comes. And at ONE FC, there will be no shortage of competition. And it's not like in the UFC where you can call out your next opponent. But if you were to call out someone, who do you have your eye on someone that you want to fight?
I'd honestly like to fight everyone in that division. I'd like to see myself competing against all of them and seeing how far my skill sets can take me and try to break that barrier every time. I want to be the best fighter in the world. I want to be a champion. And I'd like to fight everyone to know that if I make, or when I become champion, that it was worth it and it was worth fighting everyone there.
I mean, as we look at ONE FC, we look at Demetrius Johnson, who comes in the ONE FC and who's starting to make a huge splash at defeating Martin Wynn for the belt. Do you see yourself, as you grow in your career, do you see yourself fighting someone that big like Demetrius Johnson?
Yes, sir. It's been one of my goals to fight against Mighty Mouse because when I started MMA, I was compared to him. I got to learn about Mighty Mouse, and I got to learn about all his ways of fighting and his training. So I implemented some of that into my work ethic. And as I did that, I found my own style while looking at what he did. And so for me, I'd love to fight him. I'd love to test my skill set and like to see where I stand if I had to fight Mighty Mouse.
When we were going back to what I said about heritage, BK, when we look at African fighters right now, especially in the UFC, with Kamaru Usman and Francis Ngannou, Sadiq Youssef, do you look at guys like that to fuel yourself, or do you just have that natural inspiration and natural adrenaline to be the man?
So for me, as a young kid growing up, it's always been about me trying to reach the best I can be, or trying to become the best in the world. But when time went by, I found inspiration as I went by. Yes, all the African fighters that fight in one championship has always been my inspiration. And the fact that Africa is being noticed around the world, it also inspires me to do the same. It inspires me to play my part at one championship on bringing Africa onto the map throughout the world.
Definitely. Yeah, and competing in the EFC, which I've started to watch the EFC now a lot more regularly, and I think South Africa is such a underrated spot for MMA. I think how do you compare fighting in the EFC to fighting in the ONE FC?
To be honest, the way the EFC has been ran and everything, it's been beautiful. What I'd like, what every fighter would like is to become more noticed, and the fact that we are building up towards that. So I'll say EFC is building up towards that. South Africa MMA is becoming bigger and bigger. So our time, or African time, will come where people start to notice the fighters. So, and EFC is one of the great organizations to fight at us. We've got people that fight in UFC now, fighting other promotions around the world who came out of the EFC promotion. So it shows that EFC is world class. And yes, the difference for me was with the crowd with one championship. The crowd base was much bigger compared to the EFC. But I believe that with time, when time goes by, the EFC will be even more recognized around the world, and it will keep building up.
No, yeah, definitely, definitely. I think the EFC can compete with some of the best global promotions to date. I think when we look at African fighters and we look at South Africans as a heritage, it's such a they're full of tough individuals, warriors, you know. And you look at your heritage for inspiration.
I don't really do, but I know very well that we are a country with a lot of warriors. So that it's something I've always believed that Africans are tough fighters. You know? So it's something that has always been ingrained in me. So I know I've got it in me that I know there's a warrior in me. So I don't really try to look for it. The fact that is that I know that Africans can fight, and that's where I get it from.
And of course, when we look at martial arts, it's a tradition that's been going around for hundreds of years. Uh, who are some of your inspirations in the game of martial arts today?
Oh yes. When I grew up with MMA, um, I've been always watching Mighty Mouse and the likes of John Jones. And as I grew up, and in a way, you get to know the people, and with time, I've always put my side onto Mighty Mouse. And Mighty Mouse, as a fighter, he's a very mentally strong fighter. He's always up to his work. He's always acting as professional as possible, and he's always acting like a champion. So these are the stuff that I look up to, and these are the stuff I work on too.
I
So
mean,
if I could say, Mighty Mouse has been my inspiration from the start.
I couldn't pick anyone better. When we look at you as a fighter, you're developing such a huge reputation now with the fans, because of Instagram and because of your fights. If the UFC, if Dana White were to call you and offer you a spot on his Contender Series, would you take that chance, or would you continue honing your skills in one championship?
The truth is, I would stay with one championship.
Okay,
I've always been a fan of one championship. I've always been looked up to the way they work with fighters and everything. So
definitely. Yeah.
yes, it's a great opportunity, but the truth is, I am happy with one championship, and I am happy right where I
I respect that. I think you're a pure martial artist, and I think that's where pure martial artists belong. Is one championship. I think what one championship has to offer is something fresh with the kickboxing division and the Muay Thai division, the boxing division. I think it's something that fighters can really sink their teeth into as it goes along. Um, when we look at MMA, BK, did you happen to follow the UFC, UFC 249?
am. Yes, yes. I'm a huge fan of fighting, so I did follow. Yeah.
And did you have a fight that you enjoyed the most, or was it just a great event overall for you?
Oh no, yes, I definitely think it was a great event overall. The final fight was definitely the best fight. The fight uh, with Homer Simpson, uh,
Tony
who's
Ferguson.
Homer? Tony Ferguson, yes, Tony Ferguson and
Justin Gaethje. Yeah.
Gaethje, yes. That was a it was a very like fight that fans expected to have. You know, it was a fight that was full of joy, full of you know, if there were fans inside the arena, I think you would have had a different vibe towards it. But it was a very nice fight to watch in general because it went throughout. Yes, it's nice to finish a fight early, and but sometimes the fans are there to see a fight. So I've always liked having those long fights where it finishes at the end. That's when you either put the guy away at the end or the judges can decide at the end. It was nice to see that the fight went all the way through there, and the fact that JT ended up finishing Tony Ferguson. So I feel it was a card wise. I feel it was a very good card.
Right, definitely, definitely. I think in that fight, did it go? Did it go the way you were expecting, or were you expecting for a 5 round classic?
Oh, the truth is, I expected Ferguson to put more of a fight. So I thought it was gonna be a bloodbath for 5 rounds, and then it was gonna go to the judges' decision, and either or whoever won, I would have still been happy. I was sad that Ferguson lost, but I was also happy, and I was happy for Justin Gaethje. I was just sad of the way Ferguson lost. I think he could have put in, or not put in more effort, but I feel it was not the right way or a nice way for him to go out, you know. So hopefully he gets back in better shape and as a better person for the next fight.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a long build up, and the saga leading up to to UFC 249 was so intense, and it was a good few months of building up the actual fight. So when we look at Henry Cejudo and Dominic Cruz, did you happen to catch that fight?
Ah, yes, I did. It was a very good fight.
Yeah.
I expected Cejudo to win in a way,
Okay.
but because I knew he's a world class wrestler, as much as Dominic Cruz was also a wrestler, but I was honestly impressed by the fight because of Dominic's movement, the way he moves, and the way Cejudo played his timing. So it was a very nice fight. If you look at the fight again, you will see how Cejudo won according to his timing and the way he carried himself during the wrestling scramble, which was amazing, and how he used all those leg kicks to slow Dominic Cruz's movement down was just amazing. So it was a very nice technical fight to watch.
I mean, you're right, man. I think we didn't expect. I think a lot of fans expected Dominic Cruz to win because of his reputation and because of the fact that Henry Cejudo is using a lot of. He's talking a lot of trash on social media and stuff, and so I think people just wanted to see him get put down in a way. What are your thoughts, BK? Because I see a lot of similarities in you and Henry Cejudo in terms of build and style. What do you think of Henry Cejudo as a fighter?
Oh no, I think the talking trash and talking whatever he talks, I think that's just for the media, you know. But you can see Dominic Cruz is a hard worker. He's an Olympic champion in wrestling, so he's been working hard. And I knew leading up to the fight that he was gonna fight his best. He was gonna fight. He was gonna give everything out there, and he was gonna make sure that he gives it to Dominic Cruz. And with him surprising us at the end of the fight, saying that he's retired, the fact that he knew he was gonna retire after the fight, it means he put all his work leading up towards that fight.
Definitely. I think you're right. I think you've basically nailed it right there, bro. So BK, as we start to wrap up, you're a very interesting figure now in MMA because of your reputation on ONE FC's Instagram with all the crazy tricks. Um, how how long do you think in terms of a career, um, for as speaking as a fighter, how long do you, what age do you think is a fighter should start a career, and what age do you think a fighter should end a career? How should they determine that? How do you determine that?
So yeah, that's a very interesting one because I've seen fighters um, stop fighting at the age of over 40, and it's when it comes to when to end the fighting, I think you will have to listen to your own body of knowing whether you still have it in you or not. You know, you have to listen to your body. Some fighters think it's all in the mind. Yes, there's a certain part a mind plays or the certain role a mind plays. But if you don't listen to your body when it's time to stop, you will never know when to stop. So I think the most important thing is always making sure you listen to your body. And to start fighting, I started as a kid basically. With the wrestling, I started as a kid, and in my 20s, that's when I went into MMA. But there's always time to start. There's always time to start as long as you put commitment and you work hard towards what you want to achieve. There is always time to start.
Definitely. I think, bro, I think you're an inspiration. I think you'll grow to be an inspiration to fight fans and fighters everywhere. I expect to see big things from you, man. Watching One FC and being a big fan of One FC. Myself, I expect to see you in that title picture very soon. Uh, when we uh, when we look at martial arts and we look at an inspiration overall, we look at genuine versus trash talking. You know, bro, I think you're one of the most humble and respectful guys I've ever sat down with. Um, I think uh, I thank you, DK, for joining us here today at MMA Reloaded Real Talk. First of all, I'm sorry for the bit of a lateness and delay, but it was great, man. It was great having you on, bro.
No, thank you. No problem at all. I really enjoyed this show, and I hope we do more, man. And I really appreciate your time, and thank you for inviting me into your show.
No, thank you very much, BK. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Sweet, man.